The courtroom fell completely silent. Judge Karen slammed her gavel onto the bench, breaking the stillness. "A man like you doesn't belong here, unless you're sweeping the floors," she declared. The black man standing before her didn't even flinch. He simply smiled. Exactly 7 minutes later, it was Judge Karen who found herself in handcuffs. That morning, the court was packed. Judge Karen Monroe, infamous for her harsh rulings and icy demeanor, sat high up on her bench, her robe draping down as she glared down at everyone below her like royalty. Across from her stood James Carter, a calm, well-dressed black man in his mid-30s. His hands were neatly clasped behind his back, and his eyes held a quiet confidence. But none of that mattered to Judge Karen. All she could see was his skin. "Mr. Carter, you must be lost," she sneered. "This courtroom doesn't entertain fake lawsuits from people just looking for attention." She smirked as laughter echoed through the gallery. But James didn't laugh. He didn't even flinch. He simply opened his briefcase. James wasn't just some random individual. He was a Harvard-educated attorney and a former FBI investigator. Years earlier, his younger brother had been wrongly sentenced to prison by Judge Karen, despite undeniable evidence of his innocence. Since that tragic day, James had abandoned everything to fight against corrupt individuals like her, determined to take them down from within.
And today?
He wasn't in court for some frivolous lawsuit. He was here for a much more official purpose. Judge Karen laughed coldly. "Let me guess," she mocked. "You're suing the system, crying racism again, right?" She flipped through the file, almost as if she was dismissing him before he could even speak. But James was calm, his voice steady as he responded. "I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here for justice." Judge Karen rolled her eyes. "Typical," she muttered. "You people always twist the law for your benefit." The words stung and sent a wave of disbelief through the courtroom. James turned to the court clerk. "Is that being recorded?" he asked. The clerk nodded, his face grim. James flashed a subtle smile. "Good," he said, as if he had just planted the seed of something bigger. Judge Karen leaned forward, her posture suddenly tense. "So, what fake case are you presenting today?" she asked, her voice dripping with condescension. Without a word, James opened a sealed envelope and handed it to the bailiff. "This is a federal warrant," he said, his voice unwavering. "Signed and approved this morning. It charges you, Judge Karen Monroe, with obstruction of justice, judicial misconduct, and racially biased sentencing." Judge Karen laughed out loud, unable to comprehend what was happening. "What kind of joke is this?" she scoffed. But James wasn't joking. He slowly revealed his badge. "Federal Investigator, Civil Rights Division," he said. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The same people who had been laughing moments before now sat frozen in shock. Judge Karen's face turned pale. She stood up, her voice shaking. This is outrageous. You can't do this in my courtroom." James cut her off sharply. "You've forgotten, Judge. This isn't your courtroom anymore." He turned to the clerk. "Call in Agent Reynolds." 2 federal agents walked in, and Judge Karen stumbled back in disbelief. "Wait, you're serious?" she whispered. The agents walked up to the bench, and James began reading the charges aloud. "You've wrongfully sentenced over 37 black defendants, showing extreme bias. You've dismissed appeals without review, denied basic rights in your courtroom, and fostered a hostile environment for minorities." Judge Karen was visibly shaking now, her voice faltering as she stammered, This can't be happening." James's gaze hardened. "This is justice, Karen. You sentenced my brother to 15 years for a crime he didn't commit. He served 10 before being exonerated. But your time is up now." Cameras flashed. News reporters crowded the hallway, eager to capture every moment. Judge Karen, once a symbol of power and pride, now stood handcuffed, speechless. She tried to plead, her voice cracking. "I didn't know. I didn't mean to." James stepped forward, his voice resolute. "You knew exactly what you were doing. Every sentence, every insult, every life you ruined." As Judge Karen was escorted out of the courtroom, the crowd erupted into applause. Some of them were former defendants. Others were mothers who had lost their children to her corrupt judgments. It was a moment of collective victory. Justice had arrived. Later, outside the courthouse, James stood on the steps, surveying the crowd that had gathered. A young black boy, his eyes wide with awe, approached him. "Are you a real hero?" he asked. James knelt down to meet his gaze. "I'm just someone who didn't stay silent," he said, pulling out a photo of his brother, Darnell. He smiled softly and whispered, "This was for you, Darnell." Turning to the cameras, James addressed the public. "To everyone watching, remember this. Never let power go unchecked. Never let hate wear a robe. And if someone tells you that you don't belong, prove them wrong." He paused, his words heavy with meaning. "I may not be a judge, but today, justice was served." He looked at the camera crew one last time. If this story moved you, comment, "Justice wins" below. Share it with someone who believes change is impossible. It is possible. And if you've ever been told you're not good enough, just remember, don't wait for permission to fight back. All you need is courage.